College 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with my good buddy right here, Ray Schwetz. And our guest today is Claudia Coquin, founder of Word Up Long Island Fest. Now, Claudia, you are an amazing author and journalist. Ray shared some of your accolades and bio with us earlier on the show.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about what projects you have going on and what really inspires you to sit down, have a cup of coffee and tea, and write?
Well, I'm a freelance writer, so I'm always doing different kinds of projects. I wrote for Newsday for many, many years in different departments. I wrote op-eds. I wrote features for the Sunday lifestyle pages. I'm a lifestyle and human interest writer. That's really my forte, and it's what I enjoy most. I love doing research and meeting new people who are doing interesting things and then writing about them. So that's always... I'm always looking for more work like that, but I've also written history pieces. I wrote a column for Newsday years ago on name origins of places in New York, and then I did that for Parade.com as well. So that was fun, and so yeah, I'm always doing little things here and there. What inspires me is I belong to a number of writer forums, and I belong to a group of Long Island writers who are my colleagues and my friends. And I'm always inspired to do more for my career because of these people. You know, they're constantly on the go, constantly getting new projects, new work, reaching out to new potential clients, networking, and that for a freelancer is what keeps me going.
So for you, it's about finding relatable topics and working with others and kind of feeding off of that energy.
Yes.
Okay.
Not so much working with others, but feeding off of their energy is key. You know,
they're motivating you.
Motivating, exactly. Inspire me to keep going, finding new contacts, new editors, new publications that might be interesting to write for, that kind of thing.
It's great to have that network.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, to me, I always picture, a writer. I like pulp novels, so I always pictured the writer being, he's there, he's got the whiskey,
cigarette hanging from the mouth, cup of coffee,
all by himself, dark and dingy. But
yeah.
I would imagine from what you're telling me now, I'm getting a very different picture of kind of a brighter, more open, people talking,
Well, writing is very isolating,
yes.
Especially if you work from your home office. So part of what you said is true, although not necessarily in the wee hours of the night. Sometimes in the early hours of the morning, I'm in my desk, typing away. It's very important for me personally to be able to get out and see other human beings, and it really helps to be with other people who do what I do, because we're all going through the same type of thing. So human connection is really important. And I actually wrote I co-authored a book on networking with Lucy Rosen, who is, I don't know if you know her. She's been around for many, many years in marketing and business development and whatnot. And that actually, working on that book, taught me a lot about the importance of always meeting people and always just talking to them. And that's what networking is about. Not so much trying to get business out of people, but just meeting them. You never know where a story as a writer will come from.
Now, we may have some listeners out there that may not be as savvy as you as far as networking and being a part of some of these forums. Where can they find some of these meetups or forums and events?
Well, the forums you can easily find online. If you're a writer, type in writer forums, join organizations if you're on Long Island, the Press Club of Long Island. If you're a journalist, freelance writer, that's a great place for sourcing other people and professionals in the field. But also, if you don't have that, and of course, go to the internet. If you don't have that, start your own group. A friend of mine, a colleague, started our Long Island Writers Group 10 years ago now. We've been going to meetings, with the same core 10 or 15 group of writers. And, we're all local. We're all on Long Island or on the border of Queens and Long Island. So that is how we connect with each other.
And I think that size group that you talk about, it's so funny because when people network, I think people think of, I got to go to these big events with, hundreds of people there. I always find that, sure, that's helpful, but when you're going to a smaller group, an intimate group with 15 people, you're really getting to know them.
Absolutely.
So if I'm getting to know you, well, then the likelihood of me actually doing stuff with you, collaborating, doing business, or referring business, that much more likely.
Yes, and that happens very often in our small writers group. Large parties and networking meetings can be very intimidating for people, myself included.
Sure.
So I do prefer the one-on-one and the ability to sit down at a round table or a long table in a restaurant and, just have a dialogue that's specific with certain people rather than a room full of people and just, sharing your business card or your name.
And ultimately, I think that's the goal. You're looking to
exactly
make one-on-one connections.
Exactly.
Now, they always say, and I'm looking at, literary writing and then amazing movies that have been made out of a lot of this work of art. What is your favorite, from book to movie project that's out there over the years?
Oh, so many. But I'm just going to sidestep that a little bit. Okay. Right now, my favorite thing of all time is Hamilton, and that was from a book, but it's in our Broadway show.
Right.
And I recently had the best of luck to be able to see it, and the soundtrack is just stuck in my head. So that is such an inspiration, and it was such an amazingly creative production that was taken from the written pages of the Hamilton book. It blows me away.
You are listening to Tara Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nass Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Claudia Coquin. She is the founder of Word Up, the Long Island Litfest. So you talked a little bit about movies to books, or rather media projects are emerging from books. And it's funny, when we were talking about networking before, I think one of the first questions people ask you if you're in a creative group is, what's your favorite movie? So being that you're in literature, I would say, what's your favorite book?
Oh,
or
boy.
Do you have one?
I hate that question. It's so hard.
I know.
It's so hard to answer.
So give me maybe your top three.
Yeah, but what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Well, anything by Jane Austen.
Okay.
I love. It's an oldie. Shakespeare, still classic. And I read Shakespeare years ago when I was in college, but, that is always timely. So anything by Shakespeare. And I recently been reading a book by Judd Apatow. I believe it's called Headcase. That might not be the exact title, but it's his interviews with all these comedians when he was 15 years old here in Long Island from his own radio station in his high school. He did all these interviews with Jerry Seinfeld and Jay Leno and amazing people. Talk about drive and inspiration, right? So that's on my nightstand right now.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And one day they'll be talking about our interview that way.
I hope so.
I think so. And you talked about networking. There's a great quote, and I keep trying to remember who it is that said it. It might have been Kurt Vonnegut. I'm not quite sure. But the desk is a dangerous place from which to view the world. So I think that brings me back to why it's important to collaborate with people. Mm-hmm. So now, with Litfest, how does that work as far as collaboration?
Well, I have an outstanding advisory committee of fellow writers and book lovers and readers, and so I'm always bouncing ideas to them, and they're always, keeping me grounded, but also letting me fly with things. So that's a really important collaboration for me. This is kind of like a one-man show for now, but so I really rely on them for their advice and their help.
What parting advice would you give to a business owner or a writer who's looking to break into the business?
So much. Don't give up. It takes a lot of perseverance to be in this business, to be a writer and get published. Be creative. Step out of the box. Don't be afraid to take chances. You'll get there.
Excellent advice.
And how do we find you? How do we find you as a journalist and author, and also Word Up Litfest?
Thank you for asking that question. I have my own writer website called ClaudiaCoquin.com. It's basically my name. Long Island Litfest is LongIslandLitfest.com. Long Island is all written out. And we try to keep it up to date on our activities and events. And I'm also on Facebook and on Twitter. And, people can knock on my door. No, don't do that.
So what is your best advice for people who are suffering from writer's block?
That's a tough one. I've been through that myself many times. We just hosted a Long Island Litfest Presents Anna Quinlan at Cinema Arts Center, and she gave an incredibly inspiring talk about, most of what she talked about was being a writer, not so much her works. And she just said something very succinct and precise and simple. And what she said about writer's block is, a book is not going to write itself. So basically, you have to sit down, or anything, any article, anything that you're working on, you have to sit down and start. Look at the blank page, which is so scary and frightening for anybody who is a writer, but just start.
Now, what tips would you give someone that's afraid to really just, like you said, get started?
Do a lot of reading. Find out what you really like and what inspires you, and sit down at the computer and just do it. Just write a sentence, and the rest will come.
Should they be journaling? Should they, write it in their phone? Should they take notes?
Sure. It always helps. Anytime an idea comes to your head, always carry something with you. I take notes on my iPhone. It helps to have a little pad with you. Always to take notes. Be aware of your surroundings, and the tiniest thing can trigger an entire essay or an entire, perhaps, book. So you never know where inspiration will come from that will inspire you to put it down on paper.
Now, that's fantastic advice, Claudia. And how does one find you? I know you have a website.
I have my own website. It's claudiacoquin.com. And the literary festival is on, we also have a website, Long Island Litfest.com. Long Island is all spelled out. And I'm also on Facebook and on Twitter, and always open to communications from people.
Oh, that's fantastic. We are so excited to have you here with us today. I'd like to leave everyone with what I call DB's philosophy. Reading is a habit that all successful people practice. It develops your personal and your professional skills, right? And we hope that you really enjoyed our time here with Claudia. And this has been awesome interview. We can't wait to find out what's happening next year with Word Up.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. The creative director of Tower Talk Business Radio is Rudy Breedy. This is NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHBC for more information. Available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation, on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHBC. We'll talk with you next week.